The knife is a Spyderco Para Military 2 in S45VN. This is a sprint run that Spyderco released. The steel is CPM S45VN, which is supposed to be an upgrade to S35VN. They messed with the chemistry a little bit and rebalanced it in hopes to get more chromium carbide in the steel. And there's niobium and nitrogen there, increased wear resistance, toughness. The composition of the steel is 1.48% carbon, 16% chromium, 2% moly, 0.5% niobium, 0.15% nitrogen, and 3% vanadium. Now, that's the composition by weight. As far as carbide volume is concerned, what you're talking about is 3% vanadium, 11.5% chromium, 0.5% niobium, for a total of 15% carbide volume. To put that in perspective, if you look at something like S35VN, it's a 14% total with 10.5 chromium, 3% vanadium, and 0.5 niobium. S30V is 14.5% total, 10.5% chromium, and 4% vanadium. If you're comparing it to something like S90V, S90V is 9% vanadium and 11% chromium. So just to give some perspective on the totals of the carbide volume amongst the different steels. I wasn't really concerned with that. I expect this steel to perform a lot like S30V, and I'm fine with that. Quite frankly, I think that S30V has just gotten better and better with time. What Spyderco's been doing with it recently, I've really seen a jump in the performance of it. Also, I mean, other comparisons as far as the toughness of the steel, it's probably going to be directly, at least according to Crucible, it's going to be directly between S30V and S35VN, given a Sharpie C notch, and edge retention from their catcher testing is the same. My primary concern with it was how the steel would sharpen. I mean, that's my biggest gripe with S35VN, which is a steel that I don't like. I just have no love for the steel at all. It's on the Sebenza, and I love the Sebenza as a model. I do. I think it's amazing, but I don't like the steel at all. I've tried, and it's just vanilla. It's just boring. It doesn't sharpen well. It doesn't hold an edge well. It doesn't hold front end sharpness well. So I was hoping that this would be different. Crucible actually says on their spec sheet that this steel is ideal as an EDC steel. I was surprised to read that. I guess they were really zeroing in on the that industry. In getting the knife, it feels put together well. Now, the other thing about this model is Spyderco is doing a new texture on their G10 scales. I was having a conversation with somebody about this before I got this, a day before I got it, and they were talking about how the G10, the peel ply, it kind of rips up their pants, and they don't like that, and they were making an argument for lightweight models and that they like that more. When I got this and opened it, I thought, they're really not going to like this at all. This texturing is very, very aggressive. It's very grippy. I was doing cutting for this video, and there was a lot that went into it. I mean, this texturing it's no joke. For really, really heavy cutting, it's almost too much. Now, I mean, some of that's in the corners, but I mean, it's okay. Now, at the same time, in having a conversation with this person today, the argument that I made back was, yeah, for really, really heavy cutting, there's a lot of texture here. But for those times when you're tired, your hands are worn down, you've been, really pushing yourself, this is going to stay in the hand well, which if I, get a model with the smooth G10, that, one of those that have been released, it doesn't work out well for me. I don't like the grip that I have at times where I'm not 100%. So this may be a nice answer to that. I wanted to do cutting for this video, and I did it with the factory edge. The factory edge on this was very, very good. They keep pushing it. The edge was hair splitting sharp out of the box. So, I mean, not only did that say to me that Spyderco is doing something right in the sharpening, but also it gave me hope for this steel to really sharpen better and take a better edge than S45VN. Started in on wood. I wanted to try and wear down the front end sharpness and see what would happen with that, and kind of see where that would go. Not worrying about a hair splitting edge. I didn't expect that to last at all for, you know, any period of time, any cutting with a factory edge. But I wanted to see just how it would feel on the thumb, how the front end sharpness from the factory edge would hold up. After I got done with the wood, I moved on to cardboard. Fairly heavy cardboard, cutting it into pieces, moving through it. I wanted to see the effect that the different materials had on it, just for myself, just my own personal perspective on the steel and how I think it would hold up. After the cardboard, I moved on to rope, using manila rope, different sizes of manila rope, working my way through that. I think it was after the rope that I stopped and I stropped the knife just to see how much it would bring it back. And then I went back to cardboard and I was working with the cardboard again, and the edge kept right on ticking. I mean, at least a fairly decent edge. So I was pleased with that. The ergonomics of the knife are good. The handle is rough. There's a lot of texture there, but again, I appreciate that. And certainly, I mean, if you were wearing gloves, this would be exactly what you wanted. It would really stay in place. The grip would be really, really well. So I like that aspect of the knife. After the cutting was done, I wanted to resharpen the knife, and I wanted to see what kind of edge I came up with. You know, I was fairly pleased with the edge retention. The chemistry, the toughness, and everything that's supposed to be there is fine. I certainly didn't see any flaws in the toughness. The fact that S45 is supposed to be an increase in corrosion resistance above S30V and S35VN it's fine. It's not really an aspect that I care about. I carry 10V, K390, Maximet, those kind of steels, and I don't blink about it. I don't care. They're not stainless. They're nowhere near the corrosion resistance of this, or even something like S30V, and it doesn't bother me one bit. I never worry about it. So, I mean, it's great if they want to increase the corrosion resistance for people who are worried about that, but it is supposed to be an increase in corrosion resistance. When I went to sharpen the knife, I started in on the diamond waterstones from Veneve, and I went through one sharpening, and I had a funny angle on one side. I don't know if I blew the angle in sharpening or if the knife had something funny in the grind, but I had a spot, you know, it was polishing on the back of the bevel, not on the front. Went through another sharpening with the stones. Kind of got the same thing where the edge really wasn't coming up. That can happen sometimes. I mean, I see that happening with the Veneves here and there, especially when you get into sharpening on top of sharpening on top of sharpening, where you're chasing a polish with the edge, and you're convexing the edge more and more each time, and you find yourself chasing that convex. It gets difficult to not really blow your angle going too high on it and still apex the knife properly. So typically what I do in that situation, and what I did here, was I moved to diamond plates. It's like an old friend. And for me, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but for me, I can really sort out an edge with diamond plates, with DMTs. There's a degree of control there, probably from the amount of aggression in the plates. So I moved on to DMT plates. I just said, you know, enough with this. I don't care about a polish. I want to see how this edge comes up. I was really getting the feeling that the edge was going to be ultra aggressive and really come up with a very high level of sharpness. Started with a DMT coarse, sorted out the edge, sorted out the angles, moved on to a fine, worked with that, and then moved on to DMT medium extra fine. I really love the medium extra fine. I know I've talked about it before, but I really can't get enough of that stone. It's phenomenal. After the medium extra fine, I moved on to Ken Schwartz 3K diamond plate, and I worked with that. Again, following that progression. The course is fine. The course plate gives you a degree of control, allows you to sort stuff out, and it probably gives a level of aggression in the edge, even the final edge, that you wouldn't have otherwise. When I'm sharpening with the plates, it's a cumulative effect. I'm not completely, it's not like when you're polishing. I'm building scratch pattern upon scratch pattern upon scratch pattern. So starting with the course gives a different edge in the end than if it wasn't there. Maybe if I spent more time on each plate, I would take the previous edge out, but I don't do that. I'm only doing it till the point where I form a burn and I'm moving on. So, but that movement of fine, medium extra fine, and Ken Schwartz 3K really brings an edge up nicely, and with a surprisingly high degree of polish. Ken Schwartz plate really sets you up for your final stone. In this case, I used the Veneve OCB 2000 grit diamond waterstone. I wanted to use that for my final edge, and I went straight from Ken Schwartz 3K to that. Use that. It brings up a degree of fine, I want to say polish, but it's not a mirror polished edge. It's still very rough, but I wasn't putting in any work to take scratch pattern out. It was just a sharpening, shooting for sharpness. After the Veneve, I moved on to strops, working with a 1 micron on leather and then a 10th micron on leather. Still using the strop made by Northwest Knife Guy and Soling leather. That strop is still running strong. I'm still enjoying it very much. I checked after the 1 micron strop, and the edge was hair whittling sharp. I barely bothered to clean the blade off. I just wanted to see what would happen. It doesn't take much at that point for me to check the edge and kind of see where I'm at. And after the 1 micron, if it won't whittle hair at all, you've done something wrong. There's no point in moving on to the 10th micron or anything else. But it was fine. It was hair whittling sharp, so I moved on. And the final edge was just ridiculous. It's what I've been running into lately. I think it's a matter of mixing the right stones and having the right finishing stone. And the OCB stones from Veneve are phenomenal. I'm enjoying that 2K as a finisher. The edge was just taking hairs in half. I did catch one piece of footage, hair whittling footage, where the knife kind of whittled the hair over and over and over again. And that was good. It was great. I was looking for that. But generally speaking, what I was running into was the knife was just taking hairs in half on contact. So that's really what I want. That's really what lets me know that an edge is where I want it to be. So I'm pretty happy with this knife. I'm glad that I was able to pick it up from River's Edge. Smooth transaction there. Good people to work with, as always. I'm pleased with the model. The centering is less than perfect, but the action on the knife is pretty good. A little bit of lock stick, but that's fine. I'm not concerned about stuff like that. I'm more concerned with how the steel performs and how it sharpens, and I want to see how it breaks down. I want to see how the edge goes, because with S30V, I like it. S35VN, I don't enjoy it at all. So, I mean, the big question is, if this does stand as an improvement over S35VN, not so much performance, but just the aspects of the steel that matter to me. And maybe I'm an unusual end user, but there are aspects to S35VN that I don't enjoy. And what I was really hoping was that this would be an improvement, not only for this model, not only for what comes from Spyderco, but also because if Chris Reeve Knives is going to start using S45VN on their Sebenzas, I want something other than S35VN. I think it's long overdue that a change happens there. And I'm hoping that this is the way they go. I heard that Spyderco is rockwelling these at around 61. Maybe that has to do with some of what I'm noticing. But, I mean, the knife just, it sharpened very, very well for me. I was extremely pleased with it. I can't imagine, I mean, even if it's a point off, I can't imagine it would be that big of a difference. Maybe it would, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Spyderco is doing with the heat treat, and I'm not sure what Chris Reeve Knives is going to do with the heat treat, but I was very happy with this, and I'm glad that I picked one up. I think that Spyderco did a good job with it, and I like the steel from what I've seen so far. I haven't carried it. I mean, I've used it. I've done some cutting with it, but really what I want to see is I want it in my pocket, being carried, being used, and really be able to evaluate it that way over some time. So I'm looking forward to that, and we'll see what comes from it.